Good morning, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to talk to you about why dogs eat poo. I know, it's disgusting, but dogs do some really disgusting things. And this is one of them. So, we've got Harry and Humps here. I don't think you're going to get much action out of them. We've just been for our walk and they've had their breakfast and everything and they're just sleeping now. So, dogs will eat all sorts of poo. Cat, fox, rabbit, and they'll eat dog poo. They'll eat their own dog poo and they'll eat other dogs' poo. I've had a lot of dogs, and the only dog I've ever had, well, all of my dogs have eaten like fox poo. Oh, when they roll in fox poo, it's the most awful thing. And all of my dogs have done that. And they've all eaten cat poo and they've all eaten rabbit poo. I've only ever had one dog in all those dogs that's eaten his own dog poo. Or other dogs' poo, and that is my little Harry here. So Harry, we rescued him from a really bad abuse case that ended up in court, and he didn't go from the abuse case to the rescue centre. The rescue centre were involved; they were there to get him out, but he didn't go from the abuse case to the rescue centre. He went from the abuse case and he came straight to us. So we were there with the rescue centre, and he came straight to us. And right, so what I'm about to tell you is it's quite disgusting, but bless his little heart, it's about my little Harry. So if you're extra sensitive, you might want to just put the volume down for a bit. Put the volume down if you're extra sensitive, and it's not about the abuse, it's just about what he used to do with his poo. And then I'll wave my hand in front of the camera and then you can turn it back on. It's not really bad. It's not about the abuse. I'm just going to tell you what he used to do when he came to us with his poo. Right, so I'm going to start now. So one of the things about where he was that he wasn't fed. And so he used to eat his own poo to survive. But what he used to do was he used to actually be so hungry that he'd be eating it as it was coming out of him. So it'd literally be like in a circle and he would be eating it as it was coming out. He was so hungry. And then, it would go in him, it would come back out of him. So it wasn't, it was a really bad state. And what he also used to do was when he first came to us, I only had one other dog, my little Albert. And as Albert would be pooing, Harry would be eating it as it was coming out of Albert. Obviously, I would stop it, but a couple of times I didn't see straight away, and he was eating it as it was coming out of Albert. So poo to him was his survival, and really, thank goodness it was them. Thank goodness he learnt to do that because he would have died. So that was really quite easy to stop because all I had to do was feed him. And if you watch, I did a video about dog food obsession, and so he, unsurprisingly, when he first came to us, had a really crazy obsession with dog food and got really aggressive. The video was dog food aggression, that's it. And I talk about how I had to put food everywhere to teach him that food was not an issue now. And actually, that all happened, that got him over everything really quickly, and he stopped eating his own poo, or Albert's poo, really quite quickly. But obviously for him, it was just something that he had to survive. And so eating poo was something that he would do. But I'm going to tell you in a minute what I did to stop it. Now, so he's 6 now. And that happened when he came to us when he was only like 4 or 5 months old or something. And so that was then. And then he hasn't eaten any dog poo, and certainly not his own poo and nobody else's dog's poo, in those whole years. But then recently, last week, he started eating dog poo again. And so I just went into my, right, okay, I've got to work out what's going on here. And he was always eating it at the same time. And it was when, so I get up, the first thing I do is feed my boys. Then my dogs. My dogs are all boys, so they're my boys. So I get up, I feed all my dogs. And then they all go out in the garden. And sometimes they will go to toilet then. And sometimes they'll wait until we go for our walk. So I feed my dogs and I give them the hour to make sure there's no issues with bloat. And then we go for our walk. And so sometimes they'll wait until we go for our walk. But more often than not, they will all have at least one poo in the garden after their dinner. It's their breakfast, but I call their breakfast dinner because I don't like to put too many words into their little heads because just keeps life simple for them. So after I've given them their breakfast, they will go out and go to the toilet. And what Harry started to do was, and while they're doing that, I'm getting my breakfast ready. But the way our house is designed, we've got big patio doors on the back of our kitchen, and that our garden's not very big, which means I can see the whole garden really easily from where I'm preparing my breakfast. And I'm preparing my breakfast with the back door wide open, and I'm right at the back door preparing it. So I can see them and all around all the edges of my garden really clearly. So from a safety point of view, I'm there with them. And what was happening was my other two dogs, so we've got Humps here and then little Albert's on the other side of me asleep. They would go to toilet and then Harry would go out after them and then eat their poo. And he was eating it quite quickly and quite a lot. So I just had a little running list of checklist that I went down. So the first thing I looked at was, is he hungry? Well, he couldn't have been hungry because he'd just eaten his breakfast. So I knew it wasn't hunger. And it could have been that I hadn't given him enough breakfast. But I did another video recently about how to know if you've fed it. Oh, what was it called? Something about how to know if you're feeding your dog enough. How much should I feed my dog? I think that was it. And so there were loads of things that I look out for to make sure that I'm feeding my dogs enough. And I checked all of them. I'd gone through all of them, and I knew from various signs from that. If you don't know, if you haven't watched it, go to the playlist, go to Feeding Dogs, and it's in there. So I'd done all of that things that I checked. So I knew he wasn't hungry. I knew he'd eaten enough, especially as he'd just eaten his breakfast. And he doesn't always finish all his breakfast. Sometimes he leaves just a little bit. So I know that he wasn't hungry. So I know that definitely wasn't the problem. Now, is he bored? I doubted that very much because he'd had his breakfast and then they normally just follow me. So I go up and have my shower and get ready, and they come up with me and just wait with me while I'm getting ready. And then they go for their walk, and they have a good hour walk, and I do lots with my boys. I train them. There's all sorts of stuff going on with them. So I really don't believe that he was doing it because he was bored. The next thing is attention seeking. I don't think he's doing it for attention seeking because, if you know me, if you know my channel, my boys get more than enough attention. I really don't believe that that's it. They're never on their own. If you look at videos I've done about my dog routine, you just see it's not that. It's really not an attention issue. The other thing is medical. Could it be medical? And I wondered that. That was my thought. I thought, oh, could it be something medical? So I started to research it. I looked it up, and all I really kept coming across was that eating dog poo is rarely ever a medical condition. So, and I couldn't find any medical conditions that are the result of eating extra poo. It's always been either hungry, bored, or attention seeking. So I thought that it's nothing medical, and apart from this, he's in fine health, no other signs at all. But is it a habit? And I thought, yeah, I think that's it. I think he just reverted back to his old ways. I think it's nothing more than that. I think he used to do it. It was something that I don't know if he liked doing it, but he did it for survival. And then I think he just, he just started doing it again as a little habit. And so how I stopped it happening is when he goes out in the garden now in the morning, I go with him. So I get my breakfast ready first, then I feed them, and then I take my breakfast out into the garden. And I eat that and I wander around, sort of following him around. So he goes to the toilet. I give him his space to do that. But then once he's done that, that is then when he was starting to eat the other dog's poo. This is something, he wasn't eating his own poo, he was eating the other dog's poo. And so I just stayed with him when he'd been to the toilet, and then just kept a close eye on him. And if he ever went to eat any, I'd just say no and walk him away. And he sort of responded quite well. I mean, what he did do a few times is he came. So my other two dogs, they do their toilet and then they come straight in. And then he would come in and then I would go upstairs and be getting ready. He'd wait for my husband to come down, ask to go out again, knowing that my husband is not as on the ball as I am, and he would start eating the poo again. And so even though my husband was watching him, clearly not closely enough, because he would be able to start eating the poo again. So what I did then was change my routine again, and I would clean up any poo before I went up and had a shower. I usually go up, have a shower, get ready, come down, take the boys out for an hour, come back, and then I clean up any poo. But what I was doing now was, after they'd pooed, I was picking it up straight away. And that, well, it's nothing there. You know, that's helped no end. And if during the day anybody's pooed out there, it's very unusual for them to do that. They normally do it on the walk, but if during the day anybody has, then I just clear it up, as soon as I see it. I mean, I generally do clean up as soon as quite quickly. I don't let it hang around, but I'm just quicker about it. And sometimes the boys would be out there, and even though I'm watching them, they might be behind a wall or something like that, and pooing, and I haven't noticed. But I'm just more vigilant on checking the garden and making sure that there's none out there, just so that he doesn't eat it. Now, the thing is that what bothers me about it is I was thinking, well, can it be any harm to them? What really bothers me is when they cat poo. My dogs, all of them, every dog I've ever owned over the years, cat poo is like the treat of all treats. So, and these three I've got now are worse than ever. And so I've learned different areas on our walks where cats poo. So piles of leaves they poo. I can spot an area where I think a cat's been scratching around a mile of. Oh, where a cat has been scratching around a mile off. And I know to avoid them now because they were cat poo, and that I don't know what it is about cat poo, but what bothers me about them eating cat poo is that cat flea treatment is toxic to dogs, and so it worries me that there would be some flea treatment in the poo or any medication that the cat is on or anything. You just don't know. So I really, really do everything I can to make sure they do not eat cat poo. Rabbit poo, they do eat that sometimes, and sometimes where I take them and they're off lead, there are rabbits around there in the countryside, and they do eat rabbit poo then. But on the whole, and again, I researched it because they do it, and I've researched this years ago, and there's no general harm to them. But sometimes I notice they can be their tummies can be a little bit off if they've eaten a lot. So I try to be a bit careful about that. And fox poo, for some bizarre reason, they don't eat fox poo. They roll in it just to make it really disgusting. If you've never had a dog that rolled in fox poo, I hope for you never do, because it is disgusting. It stinks. It sticks to their fur like nothing I've ever met. Even after you've washed them and bathed them, it still stinks. It's horrible. It's really bad. If you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. It's grim. Why do they want to smell like that is beyond me, but they do. They roll in. It's disgusting. But that's not causing them any harm as such, is it? Rolling in fox poo, that's just causing me harm. Something I don't ever do is I never tell them off for it, and never tell him off for it. So I just give a sort of a nice, calm, friendly no. But I don't tell him off for it. He's not being naughty at all. I don't think any dog is being naughty. I mean, don't get me wrong, and I'm not, and he actually is on videos I've done about dogs attention seeking, he's my main star because he is the biggest one for attention seeking. I don't mean I don't think the poo is attention seeking, but yeah, if you've seen that video, you'll know what I'm talking about. But on the whole, he's very, very good, but he goes through stages of life. But if a dog is doing it for attention seeking, still don't tell them off, because if they're attention seeking, then they just need some more attention, or it needs adjusting. There's no scenario in which I would tell a dog off for eating poo. I would just nicely say no, and just guide them away from it. Certainly wouldn't get them to wear a muzzle, because I've heard people say they get them to wear a muzzle. That just seems really pointless to me, because aren't they going to still try and eat the poo, and then the muzzle's covered in poo, and then you've got to wash that muzzle? I wouldn't be doing that. So I wouldn't be doing that. There's all sorts of old wives' tales, isn't there? What is it? Something about pineapple, putting pineapple in their food or something like that. Again, I wouldn't be doing that, because I think I'd just rather stop them from eating the poo. And I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not a big fan of pineapple, because it's very acidic, I think. But I just don't imagine pineapple be very nice in their food, and I just don't like the idea. And I also think pineapple quite harsh on their stomach. I just don't like the idea of giving them pineapple. But I'd just rather stop them from eating the poo really than doing anything like that. Um, so I mean, on the whole, it's not a big serious problem. Maybe the cat poo is though. I'd watch that. I'm not seeing it as a serious problem, but it isn't something that I want him doing. Plus, the other thing about it is that it's filling themselves up of something that has no nutrients, because all the nutrients has been taken out of it, and it's just what's left, and he's filling himself up on that. Poos are quite big, aren't they? So it's, just not nice. I just really, really don't want my little darling eating poo. Bless his little heart. Look at him. Can we see him a bit? Yeah, there he is. Gorgeous little boy. Gorgeous boy. Basically my approach to it is just take it out of the way. Get the poo picked up as quickly as I can, and just keep him away from temptation. So, if, as always, if you have got any tips about this or anything you'd like to say about this, or if you'd like to tell me about your dog that does it, if you'd like to name and shame your dog on my YouTube channel, feel free. Yeah, it's not a nice thing, but not a massive problem, but just something that I don't like my dogs doing. So, you know where I am, all over the place. Please remember, let me just remind you one more time. On social media or anywhere, I will never ask you for money, and I will never ask you for your personal details. So if anybody claiming to be furry and spoiled asks you for anything like that, please be aware it is not me. It's somebody pretending to be me. It's not me. I hate that I have to say that, but I just do. I would hate for any of you to get scammed out of money in my name. So please remember, I will never ever ask you for money, and I will never ever ask you for personal details. In fact, I never ask you for anything. I just don't. So please always be aware of that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you and your dogs are having a lovely day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye bye.